Everybody, welcome back to Just Keep Parenting. Thank you for joining us. This is a channel where we talk about parenting and, the things that hopefully will make parenting a little better. And sometimes when we have rewind moments, right, so we can try it again. It was created because we had parents, we had students that said, just need a little something to buoy us up, right? And so thus Just Keep Parenting happened. But right now on the videos we're discussing easy to love, difficult to discipline. And so we've been talking about encouraging and how do we encourage our children rather than discourage our children. And so today's topic is from page 136 to 138, and it's called Encouraging Children During the Hard Times. Right, and as we're finishing up our semester here on campus, it's been really interesting for me to listen to the students who are figuring out, the BYU students who are figuring out what they've gained, what they've learned from being in the lab school this semester. And it's been really interesting to me to see that my job is to be encouraging to them as well, right? Noticing the things so that they can then make that judgment call on how it feels, right? And my job is not to, right here, this is exactly what it is. The best teachers are those who show you where to look, but don't tell you what to see, right? And that's kind of what we're talking about, is that encouraging and noticing rather than judging. And we've got a few other videos back in the back if you want to go look at those. But today we're going to talk about, right, how do we encourage during the hard times, right? We sometimes encourage, but we're actually discouraging because we're judging, right? And so another way that we do that is when we say thank you to a child after they have complied with a command, right? There's differences, as we know from our experiences and from parenting, that there's a difference between requesting and commanding, right? In a request, as we give a request, we're understanding that there is room for a choice, right? But as we're commanding, there's no room for a choice. One of my teachers had a great experience this week when she was doing her large group lesson. And she asked one of the children, she said, "Can you turn around, buddy?" And he looked right at her and he said, "Nope." And she's starting to rewind and saying, I should have said that differently, right? But as soon as she stated it in command form and she said, "Look, sweetie, it's my turn to teach, so you need to be sitting and facing me." Okay, and he did, right? And so I just think that so many times we confuse children because we use adult speak with our kids rather than using words and phrases that they understand, right? So please and thank you are words that we use when we make a request of another person or when somebody does something for us, right? So we've got to figure that out, that please and thank you are used in those specific circumstances and not as when we talk about commands, right? So requests, as we've talked about before, they simply imply that the child has a choice, right? And the commands, they're firm expectations, right? So they don't really leave them a choice. And so then we create that confusion when we start a command with please, right? Or end it with a thank you. So we're actually saying, do this for me. And then, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me, right? I have some teachers that really struggle with that because they want the children to do it, but instead of sending it in a command form because they don't want to be mean, right? They actually tack on that "for me." And we've talked about how debilitating that can be for children because we're creating pleasers, right? And that's not our job to create pleasers. It's our job to create thinkers, right? And so we don't want to say, "Can you do this for me?" Right? Because when they get angry at the world, they're not going to do it for me or for anybody else, right? And then the other thing that I think we do is we rob them of the accomplishments, right? When I tack on that "for me," right? Or I tack on the thank you or the please when it's a command and not a request, right? So we need to notice what they're doing instead of thanking them for what they do when it's command. All right. So in order for us to notice, we've talked about this for the last few weeks, but in order for us to know it, to notice, we need to be present in the moment, right? And I know that I am so guilty of this. Sometimes the kids will, say my name, and then I'll say, yeah, I'll be right with you, right? And I hold my finger over so that they know that I'm going to be right with them. And then something else comes up, and I'm like, what do you need, bud? And sometimes I can't hear them with their masks on, and different things happen, right? But if I can be present, right, then I can describe what the child is doing, right? So I can say, hey, you picked up that wrapping paper in Santa's gift shop, right? That's it, right? We're noticing. And sometimes I can tack on that tag, right? We don't have to use tags all the time, but I can say that was helpful, right? But I want to get to the point where I'm not having to tack on the tags. But we can judge a child without paying a whole lot of attention. We don't have to be necessarily present to judge them, right? And that is done. We hear something, we think we see something, and it's just like, what is that child doing now, right? We just automatically assume, because we can judge when we're not present. When we're present, we can notice. We can reward them, right? We can give them a toy, we can give them a piece of candy without that connection, right? Whereas if we're noticing, then we have that connection, right? Because we have to be with them in order to do that. So the question that Dr. Bailey poses in the book, she says, do children struggle with this because they are receiving too little attention in the form of noticing, right? And then she goes on to say, how can we expect children to tune into us when we do not teach them how to do this by tuning into them? And I thought that was like, earth-shattering, right? Because it's kind of like kids don't come to earth knowing how to pay attention. They don't come knowing how to listen, right? We have to model that for them. Sometimes we have to teach them what it sounds like, what it looks like, right? And yet we just expect them to know these things, that they're just going to get it through osmosis. When in actuality, let me read this again. How can we expect children to tune into us when we do not teach them how to do this by tuning into them? That was like one of the things that was an aha to me too. I loved how she said that, right? And then she goes on and she talks about a story between Oprah Winfrey and Maya Angelou. And Oprah was totally miffed one day. Something had hurt her feelings and she felt it was very unfair. She called Angela and is crying and crying and crying. Finally, Angela said to her, Oprah, say thank you. Like, thank you that you're having these feelings and move on, right? Because we have to help our kids understand, right, that we have to have faith in life. Thank you for this experience that I'm having and I'm learning, right? There's a bigger picture, right? And so have faith, right? Have faith in life. She said, Maya taught her a big lesson early on, and that was to have faith. We don't know enough about situations to judge them, right? And we may even find out that these hard moments, these hard events in our life may be a turning point for us, right? And so children need us to have faith and confidence in them, right? When they're having a difficult time, right? Obeying us. And so some of the things that Dr. Bailey came up with were these kinds of phrases that we can use when children are having a hard time doing that. I have confidence that you'll figure out another way of handling this, right? If they're throwing a fit, if they're whatever, I have confidence that you're going to be able to figure this out. You have a smart brain, right? We kiss our brains and say, thank you, brain, right? You'll figure out a way to be helpful. I know that you do not like to be hurtful. And we start to talk about situations with them as they come into the lab school. So that felt very hurtful, right? Because she's crying, she's got tears rolling, she's holding her elbow. That looks like it was hurtful. So what can we do to be helpful, right? And using those words so they start to understand them. And then we all make mistakes. What could you do now that would be helpful, right? So we teach them that rewind, right? We all make mistakes. Miss Dory makes mistakes. You made a mistake. So what can we do? Let's go ask. Let's go say, you know what? tell them to tell them they're sorry. They don't understand what sorry means until they're 8 or 9. That comes on board here, right? But what could we do now that could be helpful? Let's go talk to them and see. I can help you. I can share you the word. I can give you the words, right? But we need to go talk to them and see what we could do that would be helpful, right? And then just as straight, oh, you can do this, buddy. I have faith in you. You can do this. You can do hard things. And then you'll make it. You have a lot of help and love, right? Yesterday we were having a child that was missing her mom. And so the student teacher brought her up and she said, she's having a really hard day today. What can we do to help her? And it was glorious to my ears. We had about 15 kids shout out, we can wish her well. And so they wished her well, right? And she went and found a seat on the circle. And I just look at our lives today and I just think, you know, if we could all notice what people are doing without judging what people are doing and recognizing that encouragement is basically a dose of hope, right? People need hope to feel safe. And that's our job, is to help people feel safe as teachers, as parents, right? To help those little kids, help those big kids that are in our homes, in our classrooms, around us at the grocery store, help them to feel safe. We offer hope to them. So see what you can do to offer hope this weekend to those that are around you. Give them a dose of hope, right? Share the video if you feel like it's hopeful for you. It might be hopeful for somebody else. Anyway, have a great weekend, everybody. Happy Friday.